Okay, it's time now for a daily look at what's been getting people talking on the internet and on social media with Media Watch with James Creedon. And James, you've been looking at India's MeToo movement, and some fear that it could be losing steam even before it's actually started.
It's interesting to see the echoes of the Me Too debate at its different stages when it took off, I guess, in the US and elsewhere about a year ago. And some similarities, some differences. I'll try to kind of quickly go through some of them. What we're seeing now is some of the more prominent people who've been targeted by these claims fighting back, if you like, with defamation laws. Now, MJ Akbar, he's a junior foreign minister. He was many, many years in the media. He and a veteran actor, Alok Nath, launched criminal defamation cases, suits this week against her accusers. Now, some 20 plus accusers came out with allegations against MJ Akbar. So we're seeing now the sort of counteroffensive, a little bit an echoes of what we saw in the US around the Harvey Weinstein case. And so some are wondering, could this sort of take the wind out of the sails of the Me Too movement? Could it be dying out before it even really gets started? And that there's a little bit of a catch-22. This is one opinion piece here about that, saying that I noticed a lot of my peers and acquaintances commenting on how this is all getting too much. There's a risk of bogus claims, that the movement is gaining speed, but everyone is thinking that it's going too far, and that now that it has quietened down a bit, people are assuming that the movement is dead or slowing down, so that there's a sort of a catch-22. The movement is almost a victim of its own success, and people are fearing the consequences of it. But mostly, I would have to say, there's a lot of encouragement for people who are coming forward. This is one blog in the Times of India encouraging men to row in behind the movement. This is why it is a crucial time for decent men, especially the generation of 30-year-olds who've been raised by working mothers, writes Prabha Chandran. It's time to stand up for the rights of wives, mothers and daughters to work with dignity in a safe environment. Me Too is also about you too. So again, echoes what we saw in the US and elsewhere, saying that this isn't just a women about men. It should be the sexes working together for a change in workplace attitudes towards women's rights. It's an exit in terms of MJ Akbar's resignation from the union government, but also a beginning, this being a seminal moment in India's her story instead of history. That's one opinion piece in the Indian Express, being echoed as well by this piece in The Print by Nandita Singh, saying really the power of the hashtag has seen a union minister resigning without a single march or a hunger strike or an overnight sit-in. This is a revolution of sorts, and it's really down to the power of the hashtag in that regard. But a word of caution from her, saying that India is a country with a lot of conservatism, many, many layers of structural and societal hurdles, more so than perhaps in the US. And just finally on this topic, people pointing to those who are unlikely to come forward, for example, domestic workers, people who might not be educated or even enough to identify certain behaviour as sexual harassment. Certainly when there's a generational gap, people working in informal conditions in homes and such, that actually they don't even recognise certain behaviours of sexual harassment, and they would be very fearful of coming forward, being afraid of perhaps being accused of theft or whatnot. So many more hurdles in a more complex society such as India for the Me Too movement, I suppose, to make real change and lasting change.
Next, James, you found a media moment that the French president would maybe rather forget during his recent visit to the French island of Saint-Martin.
That's right. This I suppose, a moment when Emmanuel Macron was coming back after a kind of a difficult summer, where the Ben Allah scandal broke. This was his chief of security, and he was, I suppose, hoping for a positive media moment where he went to meet one guy who had been in prison for armed robbery, and there was this photo with him where he then appeared, his cousin appeared alongside him and gave a middle finger with the president in that photo. Now, that was vastly sort of criticised for people saying that Emmanuel Macron shouldn't accept this kind of behaviour. He actually ended up saying, look, I love all of the children of the Republic, and that this was not ill-intentioned or intended towards me, and he was very forgiving of him. It now looks like this guy is back, has been charged again with possession of drugs, so it's sort of put the incident back front and centre of the media. And rather unhelpfully, Alexandre Benalla, who is the security guard who started the whole, I suppose, downward spiral of Emmanuel Macron's publicity this summer, came out and said, if I had been there, this middle finger would never have happened. I would have ensured that it would never have taken place. So it sort of put that incident back in the media spotlight. A lot of people talking about that today, and it's probably a moment that the French president would rather forget.
Okay, James Creedon with Media Watch. Thank you very much.